The pursuit of dreams is often seen as a testament to one's integrity, resilience, and capacity to inspire. To strive towards your goal is undeniably admirable. It reveals the strength of character and the will to overcome obstacles. But is that truly all it takes to achieve greatness? Integrity, resilience, and inspiration are vital, yes, but they only account for part of the journey. You see, reaching for the skies is within reach for anyone with a plan and a little bit of courage. If all you want is to touch the sky, a skydiving trip will suffice. But those who aim beyond the skies, towards the stars, require something more. They are the ones who possess not just ambition, but pride and precision. They understand that the remaining 40% is the part that truly sets dreamers apart, and it demands something deeper. So, what is it that drives people to go the distance, to push beyond the skies and into the stars? Is it the confidence built by one's desire to be one of a few? Or is it the pride of knowing what exactly it takes to reach the stars? What is the force that propels them to reach their full potential? The answer lies in ego. What is ego? Is it the voice that tells you you're destined for greatness? Or is it the whisper that urges caution? Ego is a powerful force within us all, a driving energy that shapes how we identify ourselves, our actions, and how others can perceive you. In our daily lives, the ego is constantly at work, whether you're aware of it or not. It helps us assert ourselves, set boundaries, and strive for success. But it also protects us, sometimes through defense mechanisms like denial or rationalization, when we face others or criticism. While ego can be a source of confidence and motivation, it can lead to conflicts when it becomes too dominant or rigid. It's that part of us that seeks balance between our inner desires and the external world, allowing us to function and thrive in our social environment. But what happens when this force goes unchecked? And more importantly, how can we master it to become the best versions of ourselves? But before I can show you how to master ego, I want to take you through Koala's short Psych 101 lesson and talk about Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, who had a fascinating way of understanding the mind. He believed that our psyche is divided into three parts: the id, the superego, and the ego. These three parts are constantly interacting, shaping how we think, we feel, and especially how we act. First, there's the id, the wild and impulsive part of us that wants what it wants right now. It's all about instant gratification, driven by our most basic desires and urges. Next, we have the superego, the moral compass that tells us what's right and wrong, often shaped by society and our upbringing. It's the part of us that holds us to high standards and pushes us to do the so-called right thing. And finally, what we all know and love, ego, or the mediator. Think of it as the link that connects both the id and superego, or the combination of both. The ego tries to find a balance between the id's demands and the superego's rules, helping us make decisions that are realistically and socially acceptable. So, now that we got the boring part out of the way, let's cook up something a little bit more explosive. You see, when it comes to ego, no one knows how to mix the right ingredients quite like Walter White. Or should I say, Heisenberg. Walter White is introduced to us as a character with no real backbone. Pretty much everything in his life up until the start of the show was decided by others. His own friends took the idea and passion project away from Walter and subsequently made a fortune off of Walter's intelligence, leaving him no choice but to settle down and become a chemistry teacher. All this leads up to Walter learning that he always had no choice in the matter, and poetically having no choice but finding out that he developed cancer, which he also had no choice with. And it's terminal at that. But it was one day that his brother-in-law, Hank, brings him on one of his busting rides that Walter finds not only his former student Jesse Pinkerton, but also his near-future passion of cooking meth in labs. On the surface, he's a man driven by desperation, a terminal cancer diagnosis, and a desire to provide for his family after he's gone. But if you look a little deeper, you'll find something much more intriguing. Walter's ego starts to personify with every batch of blue meth he cooks. At first, Walter's ego is quiet and without a name. He's a man who's been underestimated his entire life by his old acquaintances, his family, and even himself. However, that soon changes when he steps into the underworld of drug manufacturing. Enter Heisenberg, Walter's alter ego, the persona he adopts to prove himself to this new world. You see, Heisenberg is everything Walter wasn't: confident, ruthless, unapologetically ambitious. Heisenberg isn't just a name, it's the embodiment of Walter's pent-up ego finally being able to cook. Heisenberg's hat and dark glasses aren't just a disguise, they're a symbol of the transformation. Walter, the man who once feared breaking the rules, now revels in his ability to do what he finally wants. The looming fate of death created by the learning of his cancer has finally helped him take that first step on becoming someone who he's always wanted to be. His ego drives him to outwit people such as Gus Fring, a man portrayed to be one of the most cunning people we know in the show. It also allows him to make decisions that he normally wouldn't even dream of making as Walter White. And let's be honest, he enjoys the thrill of being the best at something. But here's the kicker: the more Heisenberg takes over, the more Walter's ego spirals out of control. What starts as a mission to secure his family's future turns into an obsession with power and recognition. Walter's ego is personified by Heisenberg. He demands respect and won't stop until he gets it, no matter the cost. So, what can we learn from Walter White's ego? That ego can be a powerful motivator, pushing us to achieve greatness. But when it's left unchecked, it can also lead us to sacrificing a lot of what makes you who you are. The morality and the idea of wanting things right now are two sides of the same coin, and sometimes people have to sacrifice one for the other, and rarely do the two options coexist. And for Walter, the line between self-preservation and self-destruction becomes dangerously blurred, all thanks to that little voice inside him saying, "I am the one who knocks." But who else better to emphasize ego than the Prince of all Saiyans? Vegeta needs no introduction if you're an avid anime watcher. And if you don't watch anime, then you've likely seen him sometime in your life. The way Vegeta uses ego is very different from Heisenberg's, as Walter needs his ego to become Heisenberg. And unlike Walter, Vegeta uses his ego as a weapon. Weaponizing any emotion can be a powerful thing, especially when it comes down to the world of Dragon Ball, where emotions can be the difference between a win and a loss. See, Vegeta is known throughout this show as the prideful and arrogant counterpart to Goku. It is shown many times in the show that Vegeta overcomes a lot of different mental and physical obstacles that appear along the pursuit of being better than Goku. Whether it comes down to trading, fighting anyone that stands his way, except Broly, or protecting the ones that he loves and cares for, Vegeta's always standing proud and arrogant. But this arrogance isn't just a show, it's a driving force, a wellspring of power that propels him to be a character people can resonate with. When faced with overwhelming odds, Vegeta's pride refuses to let him back down. Instead, it pushes him to dig deeper, train harder, and fight with everything he's got, often to the point of breaking past his limits. I can name you 3 scenes where Vegeta's ego shines the brightest. When Vegeta uses Final Flash against a second form Cell, Vegeta uses his final explosion to protect everyone on Earth against Majin Buu, and lastly, the combination of the 2 moves versus his fight with Jiren and Toppo in the Tournament of Power. Each and every one of those scenes are, in my opinion, the best portrayals of Vegeta using his egos in battle. And of course, the main thing many of you have been waiting for, his more recent transformation, Ultra Ego. This form is the embodiment of Vegeta's arrogance in a physical manner. The color of the form is Tyrant Purple, which not only symbolizes his Prince royalty, but also the color we associate with arrogance. The mechanic in his form are very much what you expect from a form called Ultra Ego. Vegeta draws out incredible power by reveling in combat while ignoring everything and everyone else. In Vegeta's case, in particular, he allows himself into this sense of combat by receiving damage from his opponent, fueled by his bloodlust as a result. Ultra Ego, or Wagama no Gokui, is named after mocking Goku's Ultra Instinct, which is named Megata no Gokui. Goku's Ultra Instinct emphasizes selfishness in the sense of not thinking about anything else, while Vegeta's Ultra Ego emphasizes not caring about anything else. Unlike Goku, who's fueled by an unyielding optimism and a passion for battle, Vegeta's motivation comes from a different place, one of intense pride and refusal to accept defeat. He's constantly grappling being second to Goku and the need to prove himself, not just to others, but to himself. This inner struggle, coupled with his relentless determination, makes every victory and every setback insanely personal. It's not just about winning the fight, it's about reclaiming his honor and solidifying his place as one of the strongest warriors in the universe. Why do you think there's so many motivational videos and edits using Vegeta's lines throughout the series? It's because they are a testament to his character and his ability to wield ego as something more than just another version of himself. Just as much as Super Saiyan, he uses his pride and ego as a means to get stronger throughout the course of a fight. That's why people gravitate towards Vegeta more often than Goku. It's because Vegeta's journey is one of profound transformation. He starts as a ruthless, self-centered warrior, but over time, we see him grow, struggling with his own failures and confronting his vulnerabilities. This leads to him becoming a better man, husband, father, and especially a better rival as the series progresses. People resonate with Vegeta more often than not because his story is one of a constant struggle to be better than the person he was yesterday. While Goku embodies the ideal fighter, Vegeta represents the flawed, complex, and deeply human side of the Saiyan spirit, making him not just a prideful and stuck-up deuteragonist, but a symbol of personal growth and determination using his ego as a catalyst. Get what I'm saying? But this next person doesn't necessarily use his ego in empowering ways like Vegeta, and definitely not in the ways Walter uses his ego as an alternative version of himself. This next person uses their ego in a more selfish way, and that person is no one other than Billy Butcher.
You're all fucking welcome.
If there's one thing Billy's got in spades, it's ego. But this isn't your typical run-of-the-mill ego. No, Billy's got what you might call a revenge-fueled ego, and it's as sharp as his Cockney accent. At first glance, Butcher's ego might seem like it's all about bravado and tough talk, but if you dig a little deeper, you'll see it's built on something darker, an all-consuming need to take down every suit, especially Homelander. This ego isn't just about proving he's the toughest guy in the room, it's about a personal vendetta that's as deep as it is dangerous. Butcher's ego is driven by pain, loss, and a burning desire for justice. Justice on his terms, of course. Now, how does this affect the rest of the gang? Well, Butcher's ego is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it makes him a fearless leader who's not afraid to go to extreme lengths to achieve his goals. His single-minded determination inspires loyalty and fear in equal measures to both the boys and whoever's unlucky to cross him. But on the other hand, it's also his biggest flaw. His ego blinds him, making him reckless and willing to sacrifice anything and anyone to get what he wants. To put him at odds with the boys who often have to grapple with the failures of his impulsive decisions. And despite all that, Butcher makes quite a funny and interesting character while he's on screen. His over-the-top ego makes for some very awesome and hilarious scenes during the course of the show, and we see that his ego is what really gets the boys out of some sticky situations and roadblocks. Yes, his main objective in the earlier parts of the show is to kill as many Supes as he possibly can, but as we get to the later parts of the series, this objective gets nuanced and eventually he kinda drops that vendetta entirely. We learn more about his past and his relationship with his wife that understandably justifies his hates for people who've taken Compound V. He becomes this layered character that uses ego not only to just entertain us, the viewers, and prove how cool he is, but also to cope with the fact that he's lost very important things in his life. It's like how people use jokes as a coping mechanism for certain emotions. But honestly, to keep this short, Butcher's ego is one of the driving forces behind The Boys, both with the boys themselves and the story. It's what keeps the plot moving, the tensions high, and the stakes throughout the roof because, let's face it, this show wouldn't be where it is without Butcher. It also shows us the dangers of letting an unchecked ego run wild. It makes Butcher a complex and compelling character, but also a ticking time bomb, ready to make the most cunning schemes that are absolutely
Diabolical.
As we've learned so far, ego has been used many different ways by the characters I've mentioned previously. Using ego to make another identity for yourself, wielding ego as a weapon and an extension of one's power, the list goes on and on. I believe the way these three characters uses their ego makes some of the more interesting, entertaining, and memorable scenes in these shows. Each has a unique way of tackling how to master ego. But this last character sums up the ego portrayed by the characters I mentioned earlier the best. And this egoist is named Isagi Yoichi. In Blue Lock, the concept of ego is not merely a personality trait. It is the core philosophy that drives the entire narrative. Unlike traditional sports stories that often highlight teamwork and humility, Blue Lock flips the script by promoting ego as the ultimate tool for achieving greatness. Isagi serves as the perfect vessel through which this radical idea is explored. At the heart of Blue Lock, it is believed that ego is essential for any player who aspires to become the best. In the world of soccer, where every player on a field has the potential to become a star, it is ego that distinguishes the great from the merely good. Ego Jinpachi, the mastermind behind the Blue Lock project, asserts that Japan's failure to produce a world-class striker stems from a cultural reluctance to embrace individuality. This philosophy challenges players to prioritize their own ambition over their collective goal of the team, pushing them to develop an unyielding belief in their own abilities. Isagi's character arc is a direct reflection of this philosophy. Initially, Isagi embodies the antithesis of an egotistical player, hesitant, self-doubting, and overly concerned with fulfilling his role as a team player. His decision to pass the ball instead of taking a critical shot early in the series is symbolic of his internal struggle. He fears stepping into the spotlight, afraid that he might not be worthy of it. However, Blue Lock is a crucible designed to forge players who are unafraid to seize their own destiny, and Isagi is quickly forced to confront the limitations of self-doubt. But now that we got the meat and potatoes out of the way, let's talk about what really shows the masterful use of ego in this show. Blue Lock has one of the most unique aspects in which its portrayal of ego as a result of finding your true egoist leads to forming chemical reactions. Chemical reactions refer to the synergy that develops between multiple characters who, despite their egos, find ways to complement each other's strengths and lead to some serious awesome plays that they would normally not have made. The essence of chemical reactions due to characters embracing their ego is something we see in real life, like playing a fighting game with your friend, fighting against your opponent and creating combos that you would normally have never done if you hadn't consistently practiced is the most satisfying thing in the world. Or even real life applications where you and someone else get so locked into whatever task you have to handle that it gets done like a breeze and without having to talk to each other. Chemical reactions are just that flow state that allows you to benefit from others embracing their inner egoist and allowing you to truly expressing your ego. Ego isn't just a voice that urges us forwards or hold us back. It's the essence of who we are. It's the quiet strength that helps us rise after every fall, the fire that fuels our ambitions, and the shield that guards us from our most vulnerable places. Each character we've examined, Walter White, Vegeta, Billy Butcher, and Isagi Yoichi, shows us that ego is deeply entwined with our identity. The journeys of these characters are a reminder that ego is a double-edged sword, capable of cutting down barriers, but also cutting us off from the best parts of ourselves if we lose sight of what truly matters. The truth is, life is a constant dance between who we are and who we strive to be. Our ego is the rhythm that guides us through that dance, sometimes gracefully, sometimes clumsily. But in every step, it's there, urging us to keep moving, to keep pushing, to keep growing. And in those moments when the world feels heavy and the path ahead is uncertain, remember that your ego, your inner drive, your sense of self is what will carry you through. At the end of the day, nobody will ever know you the way you know yourself. No one else can understand the depth of your dream, the weight of your struggles, or the power of your resolve. That's why it's so important to embrace your ego, not as a source of arrogance or pride, but as a core of your strength. Let it be the voice that reminds you of your worth, the force that propels you to rise above challenges, and a guide that leads you to the person you're meant to become. So, as you step towards the world, take me through the lessons we've uncovered. Know that your ego is a part of you, not something to be feared or dismissed, but something to be understood and mastered and wielded. And when you do, you'll find that within you lies power to become not just who you are, but who you've always been destined to be. So make it personal, because at the end of the day, nobody's got you like you've gotten yourself.